EAL proficiency scales. EAL learners are doing two things at the same time. They are learning the English language at the same time as learning the curriculum through English. EAL assessment focuses on the development of English in listening, speaking, reading, and writing for all purposes within the school context. If teachers understand the English language needs of the EAL pupils, they can help those pupils to access the language of the curriculum and develop the English at the same time. This module presents the EAL proficiency scales, which are used to assess EAL pupils. What are the most popular EAL assessment frameworks? The NACIA EAL assessment framework is one of them. It describes EAL pupils' abilities by using 7 steps progress descriptors. It describes the development of communicative behavior in class and language for learning. It also includes some aspects of personal development likely to be significant for some multilingual learners, such as readiness to speak to others in the classroom. The Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, CEF, is an international standard for describing language ability. It describes the language ability on a 6-point scale. The Bell Foundation Assessment Framework, which will be described in this presentation in detail, operates on a 5-point level scale. The Proficiency in English scale was introduced by the Department for Education in 2016 to collect data for the school census. The EAL assessment framework for schools was commissioned by the Bell Foundation to provide schools with an assessment tool for assessing EAL learners. The EAL assessment framework for schools was designed to align with and support the Department for Education proficiency in English scales. And here are the levels. A, new to English. B, early acquisition. C, developing competence. D, competent. And E, fluent. The Bell Foundation has published 3 different assessment frameworks, one for early years foundation stages, one for primary schools, one for secondary schools. There is a digital EAL assessment tracker available for school. When we use these frameworks, we assess 4 different skills: listening, reading and viewing, writing, and speaking. And this is the key point, that we have to consider different aspects of learning a language. We will meet students who are advanced at speaking, but they may be illiterate. We have children who present great pronunciation skills, but they operate within a very limited vocabulary range. There are some very quiet children, but they are really good at writing. We have some EAL students who don't speak at all, but they understand really well. We may meet some pupils that are really good at decoding text. It means they can read them really well, but they don't understand what they have read. There are always students who are really good at acquiring the social language, and they may struggle with the development of the academic language. And we have students who have excellent academic knowledge, but because of the language barrier itself, they may not be able to show it. Now we are going to look at each level individually. But before we do that, it is important to remember that we must look at each EAL pupil as a unique person. These children come from different countries, educational systems, cultures, and with uncomparable personal experiences. All of these facts make every single child really unique. So these levels are indicators of the current stage of learning, and they are very general. So children on the level A, children who are new to English, they may use the first language for learning and for other purposes. They may remain completely silent in the classroom. They may be copying, repeating some words or phrases, or they may understand some everyday expressions in English, but may have minimal or no literacy in English. They still need a lot of support in terms of the English or the everyday routines. And here we have some examples of writing of children who are on the A level. So as we see, these are very single words or very common phrases, or words that are popular, and we can hear them on the internet, for instance. The B level, the level of early acquisition. These children may follow day-to-day social communication in English and participate in learning activities with additional support. These students begin to use spoken English for social purposes. They may understand simple instructions and can follow narrative with visual support. They may have developed some skills in reading and writing. They may have become familiar with some subject-specific vocabulary and they still need a significant amount of EAL support in classes. And here we have some writing samples of those children. They can write at length, but we have to consider what language they are using. Is it a more advanced language, or these are just simple sentences and words that are commonly used in school? So we know how to challenge them to develop the language. The C level, developing competence. These students may participate in learning activities with increasing independence. They may be able to express themselves orally in English, but structural inaccuracies are still apparent. So it means that they are making grammatical mistakes. Their writing or speaking isn't accurate. Literacy will require ongoing support, specifically for understanding text and writing. And they may be able to follow abstract concepts and more complex written English. The advanced learners of English will be described by the D, competent level. So those students, they will present a really good oral English. They read and understand a wide variety of text in English. They've written English skills may lack complexity or contain frequent errors in grammar. And these children, they still need support in terms of developing the language. And the final level, the E level, which indicates the level of fluency, we have to take into account the fact that EL children on this level will still need our support to enable the further progress. These children will be learning more about cultural capital, idioms, cultural references, writing styles, anecdotes, manners, social language, everything that is behind the technical language. So there is an ongoing process of learning. It is crucial to regularly assess EAL pupils. Termly assessments will help monitor student progress. By looking at every pupil individually, we can identify the most appropriate personalization strategies to use in the classroom. By looking at the whole school cohort, that we have an example on the screen, we can identify the current priorities, needs, trends, supporting resources that are needed. How long does it take to learn English? This is a really good question. So we can say that acquiring the basic interpersonal communication skills, which means the social language, it could take up to 2 years for a child. And when it comes to the cognitive academic language proficiency, which is the academic language, that could take even up to 7 years. So the process of progressing for a child who is new to English usually takes around 3. For some children, it may take longer, up to 6 months, to progress from being new to English to understanding the language on the early acquisition stage. Then it's going to take, again, for some it's going to be 3 months, for some it's going to be over than a year to progress to the C level. And I usually say that the C level is the most alarming level, because these children are really independent. They can easily make friends, they can express themselves, they will get jobs in the future. But if they are not self-driven to acquire that academic understanding, they may never progress. So this is our role, to ensure that they are supported in the way of developing their language, and they have fair opportunities to acquire and achieve that level D and level E and become fluent speakers of English. EAL in SIMS, what information can be added? So we have to check the category number 8, ethnic cultural category, where we can see students' ethnicity, languages, so that could be the first and the home language, the status, country of birth, nationality, and there is assessment tracker where we can add the levels of proficiency as well. So this information is really useful for all staff in school to learn. The more we know about these children, the better we can support them. So if we know their language, if we know the level of proficiency, we can ensure the best support takes place if we start personalizing for these children. How do EL students learn? Students on different levels will require different approaches and teaching techniques. It is important to recognize EL pupil needs and to implement the appropriate strategies. We'll treat a child who is new to English and a child who is competent naturally in different ways. But here are some questions and expectations that we may have for these children on different levels. EAL pupils should have regular opportunities to develop all 4 learning skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We have reached the end of this presentation, and here are some reflection points. Thank you.